July 26th, 2023. I know it's been at least a month since we've had a proper DevLake Community Meetup. As always, we're doing our best to host all kinds of interesting events. So many of you joined us last time, about 3 weeks ago, for our session with Krishna and Brian and our new partner, 7CTOs, where we talked all about getting dev data right, as well as how to get it wrong, and exploring DevLake a little more deeply, along with some of the most important metrics frameworks that much of our community are using. So do keep your eyes open for events like that in the future. We'll always be sharing them on Slack, and those are always open to everybody. So do feel free to join them. Make sure you're following us on the YouTube channel. That's where you'll be able to get access to those recordings. So today we're going to be going a bit more classic on a traditional DevLake meetup, sharing some important updates. I'm joined today by my friend, colleague, collaborator, and DevLake creator, Hezheng Yin, who will be sharing some of the most important updates with the current release, as well as what you can expect in what's coming next. Then we'll be opening the floor for discussion for anyone joining us live who wants to ask any question of any kind regarding DevLake. As always, we're also on the Slack answering questions, being active in the community, so don't hesitate to reach out there as well. So I always like to kick these off by sharing the accomplishments that are the whole community's to celebrate. DevLake continues to grow, and we're really excited about that, and thank you to all of you who are a big part of that growth. It's really hard to believe where we are today, with more than 750 developers in the Slack, so many, so active. It's very exciting to tune in there every day and see there's more questions than ever, there's more discussion than ever. And for all of you that are diving in and helping other community members by answering questions, Hezheng and I and the whole DevLake team, thank you for that. We really couldn't do this without you. Of course, we're a relatively small team and we have our own working hours and challenges, so we always do our best to get to you as quickly as we can. So it means so much to us when you're patient, and it means even more to us when community members are helping out to answer those questions and get engaged. So thank you to all of you. We've also eclipsed a really important milestone, which is very exciting, certainly to me, more than 250,000 Docker Hub pulls, which is just crazy. That's now being driven by more than 107 contributors to the project. I think we're growing by at least one new contributor now every week. So thank you to all of our new contributors. And Hezheng and I are collaborating closely with many of our power users. And by our count, more than 500 companies around the world now are using DevLake to drive forward their data-driven engineering. So some really incredible milestones that we've reached here. And as you know, we're just getting started. I also want to share a really exciting new partnership that we've created. So Hezheng and I are both part of an organization called 7CTOs. There's a fun little selfie that we took at the last conference down in San Diego. You'll certainly be learning more about 7CTOs as we push forward on this partnership. And to give you some background, we are extremely careful with the kinds of organizations we're teaming up with in these kind of proactive ways. First and foremost, we are an open source project. We are community driven. We're not going to be looking to create any kind of commercial dynamics here that are going to change any of that. 7CTOs is another fantastic community driven organization, really focused on helping engineering leaders level up their skills, level up their leadership, come up with new ways to improve their teams and their organizations. A really friendly group of people, really focused on driving engineering forward. We love them. We're close with the leadership. We're close with many of their hundreds of CTOs and VPs of engineering who are part of their community. Some of them you've already met. Some of them are in the community. Some of them we've interviewed, of course. So we're expanding our collaboration with them, which will include all kinds of exciting things, including events, including some new blogs and some new content, all focused on making metrics more actionable, making dev data more interesting, more actionable. So certainly keep your eyes open for that as we do more and more with these guys. And an important note, if you're interested in joining their organization, we're happy to chat about it. If you do join, you'll be able to get some bonuses by being referred to by us. So certainly let us know. We're happy to chat with you about it. This isn't a commercial. Like I said, it's purely a partnership we're excited about. So definitely take a look if that sounds interesting. Speaking of interesting, with this partnership, something that you'll see very soon available to everybody is we've been collaborating with the 7 CTOs leadership, who are really true experts in driving great, effective engineering organizations. And we've developed a custom dashboard using DevLake, which focuses on the things that the 7 CTOs team believe matter most for great engineering leadership. So you'll soon see this. It's going to be called the 7 CTOs Level Up Dashboard. It's going to become a really exciting part of this partnership, and something that we think is going to be a utility, something of real value to all of our users around the world. So keep your eyes on this. And it's an important reminder that DevLake is as customizable as you want it to be. So if you come up with an exciting new dashboard, you want to focus on a particular new piece of the engineering puzzle, create that dashboard. And if you think it's interesting, share it with us, and we'll make sure to merge it into the next release so that everyone else can use it too. This is personally, for me, one of the most exciting pieces of DevLake, is seeing all of the best thinking, all of the best ideas from all kinds of people all around the world, finding its way into practical applications like this. I also want to share something cool that we're doing. And this is an invitation to any of you who are excited to get even deeper into DevLake in the future with your companies. Hezheng and I are being selective, of course. We can't do this for everybody, but we do want to do it when there's exciting large-scale applications, or if there's contribution and there's an opportunity for us to help you help your teams. The DevLake team are starting to do more of these structured, what I like to call tech days, where we're joining some of our most kind of significant or larger users and chatting with their teams in more detail about DevLake, getting their teams up to speed with data-driven engineering, sharing our perspective on DORA, sharing our perspective on how to get dev data right, all of these best practices. This is something we're starting to do a little bit more of. So if you're interested in having Hezheng and I, or any of the rest of the DevLake team, chat in a more collaborative way with your team to help you push forward a data-driven approach, we're certainly happy to share you with more information on this. And if it makes sense, we're happy to host workshops and some of these sessions to push that forward. Want to shout out 2 of our great community members who are part of these particular efforts I'm highlighting. Muktesh over at Adobe, who you'll see in the Slack, an amazing contributor, an amazing member of our community. And then Jorge over at Alliance in Spain. Jorge is also now one of the committers and a much more significant part of the project. So thank you, Muktesh. Thank you, Jorge, for being a big part of DevLake. We're excited to do these things. So I'll pass the microphone now to my friend Hezheng, who's going to share some more details on the latest release. And then once he's talked through some of the things that you can expect to see right now, we're also going to be sharing what you can expect next. So Hezheng, thanks for joining me. I know it's been a busy week. I know it's fairly early in the morning for both of us. What can we expect here in the latest stable release?
Thank you very much, Maxim. It feels really great to be back on the community huddle and meet our community members. So today I have some exciting updates on the release side for DevLake. First of all, our latest stable release 0.17.0 is out. And we have gone through 13 beta releases for 0.17 to reach this point. So thank you very much to all of the users who have reported bugs for 0.17 and our committers and contributors for fixing those and helping us to get here. So on a very high level, so for the complete list of features and bug fixes for 0.17, you guys can head over to the GitHub release page to get all the details. But on a very high level, I want to talk about what are the major new features that are included in 0.17. So first of all, in 0.17, we did a lot of refactor on the data schema related to DORA metrics. And that ensured that we can compute more accurate DORA metrics, especially for the most complicated change lead time metric. So especially if you are a user of our webhook, and then if you're also using independent CI tools like Jenkins, then definitely consider using upgrade to 0.17 instead of using 0.16, because we know there are a lot of inaccuracies compared to 0.17 in 0.16. Secondly, we added 2 new data sources in 0.17, which is Azure DevOps and PagerDuty. And they are useful for providing data from the CI/CD system and also the incident management system. And that helps with the DORA metrics calculation. And lastly, we also improved our UI/UX for config UI in 0.17. We redesigned how users manage the transformation rules in the UI. And hopefully that should make your life easier when you have a ton of projects to set up the transformation rules. So I think these are the 3 highlights. And like I mentioned, all of the details are on our GitHub release page. So that's it for the 0.17 stable release.
Fantastic.
Next up.
Fantastic stuff. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of our community members too, and a friendly reminder that when you see bugs, when you have issues, definitely be sure to share them in Slack. Many of you already are. Even better, create an issue on the GitHub. That's how all of this stuff ends up getting figured out. It's how we end up prioritizing it. So big thank you to all of you who are submitting those issues or submitting detailed bug reports on Slack. As you all know, DevLake is so complicated with so many different moving pieces, so many different data sources, so many different use cases that we really depend on you guys to keep improving it and keep shipping all of these impressive fixes and updates. So thank you to all of you for doing that, and a friendly reminder to keep doing that. So jumping forward now to what's next.
Okay, so up next is our latest beta release, which is 0.18.0-beta 3. So 0.18, similar to 0.17, is actually another pretty big release. We've been working on this for maybe the past 3 months. And there's this deletion feature that people has been asking for a very long time. And we are excited to finally deliver that to our community. So now in 0.18, we will support deletion for project, blueprint, and scope. So we will delete if you delete the project, we'll delete all the associated data with that project. So that should make things easier in terms of managing your data storage, especially if you find the previous configuration some sort of not ideal, then it's easier to erase or wipe up everything and then start from scratch. So that's one of the biggest features. Secondly, another big one. So we have revised the framework so that the enrichment can be run independent of collection. So if you're familiar with DevLake, usually the data pipeline consists of several phases. First of all, we collect data from the data sources. Secondly, we run the enrichment to calculate all the different metrics and transform data from their raw format to our domain layer schema. And usually it's the collection that takes the most of the time, right? Like if you have hundreds of repositories on GitHub, it may take hours for you to go through the collection process, but enrichment runs relatively fast. And the importance of having enrichment being able to run independently is that if you set up some transformation rules and you want to modify it, then you don't have to run the collection process for several hours to get the enrichment to run. So now if you have run the collection, everything raw will already be in the database. And you can get a new data with a new transformation rules within minutes by just running the enrichment for your project. So that should save a ton of time for our users trying to play with and explore with different transformation rule setting. So there's that. And lastly, a lot of improved UI UX in config UI as well. We have placed data scopes now under the connection, make it easier for you to reuse data scopes across different projects or blueprints. We have also allowed each data scope to configure different data entities. it used to be the case that you have to select the same data entities under one project for all data scope. But now you can configure it, make it different, and customize it for every data scope. So this would also save time in data collection and make data more succinct, more accurate. So that's for the 0.18. We are still in the process of stabilizing it. Please try it out if you're interested in any of the features we mentioned above, and report bugs to us, and ideally help us fix them. Yeah, so there's the beta release for 0.18.0. Lastly, sorry, go ahead, Maxim.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Hezheng.
So lastly, I want to give a quick preview for 0.19. So I don't have a slide for it, but 0.19 will be a relatively small release compared to 0.17 and 18. These will give us some time to focus more on stabilizing the previous releases and make sure everything works well for our community members. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. And Hezheng, I know it's a far more complicated answer, but I'm curious if maybe you could give our community maybe like the 1-minute version of kind of talking through like what has made deletion such a challenge, because I know it's something we've talked about a lot. I'm certainly familiar with how difficult it has been to really figure it out, because I know many of our users have been in the Slack looking to experiment, creating new projects, creating new blueprints, and then experimenting, and then trying to get rid of it. And they're like, why can't I get rid of this thing? It should be so easy, right? But turns out it isn't so easy. For those looking to understand it more, and maybe those looking to contribute and get a better understanding of DevLake, in a nutshell, what makes project deletion such a challenge, and one that we've finally able to conquer?
Yeah, great question. So deleting a project isn't just deleting the object associated with that project, or like the associations with that project, because we are a data project and then there's a data pipeline. So there's always a data lineage problem, right? Like if you collect this data scope, this is the raw data, and then this raw data may be transformed to the domain layer data. And then later on, we might calculate some project-specific metrics, like DORA metrics on top of that. So when you delete something, we need to go through this chain and make sure every step on this chain is properly handled. And that's where the complexity comes in. So we have done a lot of work on the data schema to make sure that chain, we can trace it up and make sure every part of it is correctly handled. Actually, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we need to pay attention to when we upgrade to 0.18 because of some of the breaking changes we made to make that possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's important to understand, and certainly, as all of you in the community know, we're always doing our best to listen to you, and I'm very excited to see project deletion be something that we've solved, because it has been a challenge. We appreciate all of you being patient with it. We appreciate all of you providing inputs for it, because it's some of these features are so important, but some of them are also deceptively challenging to figure out. So really exciting update there. So now, Hezheng, you're of course going to talk about something very important, which is a great reminder to everybody that DevLake is being upgraded quite consistently, collaborating, of course, with the Apache Foundation. We're doing our best to stay on a pretty consistent schedule, and very impressed with Hezheng and our whole leadership, all of our contributors, for making such fantastic releases happen and so consistently. And it's a friendly reminder that you want to make sure you're keeping your eye on what those updates are and making sure to consistently upgrade to one of the more current versions, because so many of the issues in the past are getting fixed quite rapidly. Certainly, we're rolling out a lot of new capabilities and features, as you're seeing in updates today, which brings up the question, how do I upgrade? What are the tips that you would recommend we follow here, Hezheng?
Yeah. So for users who are looking for a more stable release, we would recommend 0.17.0 for now. And then for users who are looking to explore a bit more and are interested in some of the the beta features, then we recommend them upgrading to 0.18.0-beta 3. And then for 0.18, there are a couple of things that we need to be sure to follow when we upgrade. First of all, starting from 0.18, we're starting to use the official Helm chart or the Docker image of Grafana. And so if you're using Helm, then make sure maybe you want to delete the deployment of previous Grafana to avoid any issue. Secondly, we have made the .m file optional in this release so that we can make it a deployment in the Helm chart instead of stateful set. And also to make it more secure for the user to generate encryption secret instead of us generating a default and no one ever changes it. That also enhances the security of the system. So yeah, so these are the two things that are important to follow, and then we have included everything in the upgrade guide. And you can also find the link in our GitHub release page for the upgrade guide. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, so that's all I have for today for the latest stable release and the latest beta release. And 0.18 will be out, I think, in a month. So also stay tuned to that for maybe I will talk more about it in the next community huddle.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, and meanwhile, we certainly want everybody to dive in, check out the beta. If you're a bit more of a bold adventurer in DevLake, we definitely love the people that jump into the beta a little early, start experimenting with it and reporting their findings and feedback. Lots of really critical and important updates that I'm so proud of our team for pushing this stuff forward, because some of this represents some really big milestones. Azure DevOps has been a multi-month challenge. Thank you to all of you who have been working with us to provide input, provide feedback, help us to better understand that. Certainly one of the more challenging data sources. I know PagerDuty, something that many of you in larger companies have been excited to integrate, and a crucial part of rendering really accurate DORA metrics. So another really exciting one. And of course, project-deletion, which is going to allow you to take a more experimental approach to creating new projects, creating new blueprints. So really, really exciting stuff to see. So jumping forward now, I see in the Zoom, it looks like we might have a question or two. Let's take a quick look here. So awesome to see Mahmoud. So happy to have you here. Thanks for joining. And Vidik, thank you also for joining. So let me take a quick look here. So reading the questions. So Mahmoud asks, are there any plans for Datadog metrics storage and dashboard support? Sounds like a bit of a feature request, of course. Hezheng, if you can pull that up and take a look. What's our kind of status and thinking here with Datadog in general? And are we thinking about metrics storage and dashboard support with Datadog or any other kind of similar platforms for that matter? Mahmoud, thanks for the question. We'll see if we can answer that here, and we'll definitely jump into our DMs as well on Slack and chat with you more about it.
Awesome. So I think both questions from Mahmoud and Vidik has to do with more new data sources. So maybe I'll answer them together. So first of all, we are definitely interested in supporting more mainstream incident management system, including Datadog and Opsgenie. I think they are already on our roadmap. We haven't got started on them yet. And mostly we're looking for community users to collaborate on those data sources. One thing that we learned from supporting Azure DevOps is really if none of our committers are a user of that data source, we really need the community members to help us, basically test the plugin in a very realistic setting, because there are so many bugs that can only be surfaced when it's used in a real environment with those real data set up instead of the test data we set up in our own instance. So that's sort of dependent on that when we select the next data source to work on is whether we have the right community members, collaborating with our committers to get that going. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I
No, really,
saw that one posted a new question here. Let me take a look.
good questions for sure. And Vidic, thanks for the questions. And Mahmoud, so happy to have you here in the Carta team. So we're excited to collaborate with you guys. So Vidic, to talk through your question a bit. So certainly the grand vision for DevLake, especially for those who are newer to it, one of the reasons we created it the way that we did partially addresses the question that you ask here, where we've certainly experienced many of the different tools out there, such as LinearB. Certainly we have many large and small users who are replacing things like LinearB with DevLake, which is always exciting to see. But one of the reasons that we created DevLake was we've been thinking about the dev data challenge for quite a few years now. And some of the things that we found were consistent challenges for people were it's very rigid. You have to have a very limited set of data sources. They're only reading from Jira or GitHub. And we all, of course, know there's a very diverse, very large number of tools that teams are using. So we needed to create that flexibility, and we felt that open source approach would be a great way to allow that ecosystem to expand, empower users to create their own plugins if they weren't already supported, or use the webhook approach as kind of a middle ground when we don't have native support already. So the answer I would give to that on a high level is we're always certainly working on new plugins. Sometimes you'll see a few come out in a release, maybe you'll see one or two. Always depends, of course, on the complexity and the team's bandwidth. But we're always thinking about new plugins. We also have some plugins being created by community members, and we have some great documentation and some great architecture that can help you contribute. So if you're interested in getting a specific tool supported that isn't already, definitely feel very welcome, Vidic, to chat with us through DMs. We're even happy to jump on a Zoom if it's helpful to help you craft a plugin and submit it to the project. We've wanted to make it as flexible as possible to do that. In terms of your other part of the question, are startups the target audience? I would say the target audience for us is quite broad, right? We've certainly found in general that DevLake is most useful to teams that are maybe a little bit larger, a bit more mature. My personal perspective on that is that if a team has fewer than 20 engineers, then DevLake might not be solving challenges that they're feeling the pain for. I think the pain of dev data becomes more intense as you get larger teams, of course. And it also becomes more important the more mature your DevOps processes become. So if you are driving a true kind of continuous delivery process, if you really do have proper kind of processes that go from issue to production, and you've got real processes in place, then DevLake naturally is going to be a really powerful tool for that. If you're a really small team, just collaborating shoulder to shoulder, working to get code out as fast as possible, perhaps it's going to be less impactful. That being said, DevLake is being used by some very, very large companies. 300,000 plus person companies are using DevLake. We also have teams, I think, as small as maybe 30 or 40 people using it for different purposes. So our target audience is really just anyone who's looking to evolve a data-driven approach to engineering and to do so with the transparency and flexibility that we've built. But it's really exciting to hear that you're looking to bring DevLake to more startups. So we'd be happy to chat with you to figure out how we can help you make that happen. And certainly, as we mentioned, the spirit of open source and DevLake being open source is to make it as easy as possible, or certainly as accessible as possible, to create these new plugins and to support new data sources whenever the community finds something they want to connect. So certainly do look at our roadmap, and you'll be able to see some of the upcoming sources that we're looking to develop plugins for. The webhook can get you at least part of the way for most sources that aren't currently supported. And for the community members looking to make contributions, we're happy to help you with that documentation and support to bring a PR to life and bring it to the project and keep expanding the DevLake ecosystem. So thank you for that question.
So one thing to add to Maxim's answer to Wydek's question is, if it isn't already supported, then you can also try out our SDK to develop your own plugins for a data source. You can develop plugins both in Golang and Python. And we're particularly, recently optimized the Python developer experience to make it easier for you to develop new plugins. So yeah, if you are interested, definitely let us know, and we're happy to help along the way. And that might be the fastest way to support a data source that's not already supported by DevLake. Also, one quick thing to note for Webhook, right now it only works for CI/CD system. So if you have unsupported, for example, like issue management system, then Webhook approach doesn't work for that.
Yeah, those are really great notes there. And I'm just dropping here. You'll see it in the chat. And then for those of you watching the recording, I'll also include this in the description and bio on YouTube. You'll see in the chat there, just dropping the link to PyDevLake, which is the framework for writing those plugins. Vaidik, if you're interested and you haven't already seen this, definitely recommend taking a look through that, and it'll give you an even better understanding of how to create new plugins in the most streamlined way that we offer. And certainly feel free to send us DMs on Slack, open up issues on the main repo, and we can collaborate there as well. But that's really great. Yeah, and thanks, Vaidik. I see there in the chat. Might take a stab at contributing some plugins. Really appreciate you considering that. And like I said, we're really happy to help. It's a community-driven project, of course. So if you have any questions, you run into any challenges, all of us here on the team are here to give you any guidance and support that we can. And we always are so excited to welcome new contributors. So welcome to the community, Vaidik, and thanks for joining and for these awesome questions. Awesome. Well, I think that covers all of our agenda today, and certainly covers some great questions there. Thank you in particular to Mahmoud and Vaidik for joining and for your great questions. The recording will be made available later on YouTube, and we'll be sharing it on Slack as always. Hezheng and I will stick around for just another minute, just in case there's anything else. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on Slack. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next community huddle. As a note, and we'll be sharing this, of course, we'll be looking to have our community meetups now once a month instead of every other week, just to accommodate the bandwidth of our team, be even more efficient with everybody's time. So make sure to tune in each month as we share these updates, as we bring new exciting interviews to the community, featuring some of our power users. Lots of really great stuff coming up. So Hezheng, thank you as always. Always a pleasure to jump on these and always a great time. For all of you part of the DevLake family, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Maxim. See you soon.